Am I the a-hole for yelling at my fiance for storing raw beef in a smoothie container?
Ew. Like,
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Powered by Piedmontese podcast. Today, I'm joined again with Joe Finnegan. How you doing today?
Oh, man, so good. The weather's kind of turned a little bit for the better.
Ooh, it feels good out there.
Oh, man, I was so glad to put a jacket on last night.
I traveled up to North Dakota last week. I had to say farewell to my 93-year-old grandmother.
Oh, no, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, rest her sweet soul. But I had a unique experience or conversation with my grandpa. I couldn't wait to tell you about it.
Let's hear it.
So this guy, largely in his prime in the 50s, 1950s, okay, got married to my grandma in 1951, was a mailman, an on-foot mailman. Well, to prelude the story, he sees me, haven't seen him in a while, asked me if I'd like to come in for a bump.
Oh.
Are you confused too?
Like cocaine, tobacco?
That might be where your first thought went to, but no, he's actually referring to a nip of brandy.
Oh.
I had never heard that expression before.
But you obliged.
I actually told him I couldn't. I actually was, a little under the weather. I didn't want to put him in, and we had to get going as well. It's a 6-hour round trip. But he begins to tell me that as a mailman in the 50s, he would go door to door dropping mail, and it would be somewhat common that other people would invite him in for a bump. And in this case, a bump of brandy. So could you imagine, 1950s, you're walking around in people's mail, all kinds of the old dudes, haircuts, outfits, and you're just in the middle of the day, a guy at home, hey, Ralph, good to see you, buddy. Thanks for the mail. You want to come in for a bump?
Could you imagine? I'm just trying to think, like, even at the office here, like, it's 5 o'clock, it's quitting time. You're like, hey, Ben, you want to stop over at the restaurant there, have a quick bump?
Again, different time, different days. It's kind of cool to hear his history had stayed with him for all this time. So he's turning 94 soon, has brandy every day. So maybe it's a secret to his life, keeping healthy.
The longevity secret.
I just
bourbon and bacon.
Just love the idea back in the 50s having afternoon bumps of brandy.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what happened. We lost our way in this world because we stopped doing that.
Well, in the 50s too, it was pretty hard times, coming World War II-ish. And so, that midday bump might have helped a lot of people.
I suppose maybe I should have put this to Reddit. Am I the a-hole for refusing the bump with my grandpa?
Probably, yeah. But you could plead ignorance and say, I didn't come here to do drugs, Grandpa. Like, we can't say that anymore.
It's just funny. The story got around the funeral pretty well because, again, everyone was concerned about Grandpa doing bumps. But, rest Grandma's soul. It was a nice funeral. Good to see everybody again. But glad to be back at it. Yeah,
I'm glad that you're back as well. And yeah, my condolences to you and the family. And glad to have you back, though.
Yeah, so I thought today, week 3 here of more Reddit stories. Last week we did hit quite a bit on romance in beef and marriages and stuff like that. So, but today we have a little change in direction.
Or former marriages in a couple of those circumstances.
Yeah, some of these were archived, so we can't go back and ask, are these marriages toast? That last one I think certainly was, but you have another one that you'd like to start off with.
Yeah, sure. I didn't commit this one to memory, so I'm going to actually read it.
Okay.
But I will skim it down.
Well, I'll listen astutely.
Am I the a-hole for yelling at a woman who wouldn't give my dad the fat from her steak? So the backstory here is they are at his father's 60th birthday. Sidebar, the father actually has stage 4 colorectal cancer as well. So he's out, enjoying his birthday, 60. Big milestone given the circumstances. Well, they went to a hibachi grill, and there's 4 of them. And then there's 2 guests that are random people sitting at the table with them, and
that's the knife chopping, the swinging, the throwing,
the flaming onion tower,
okay.
The whole works. So this chef is preparing their meat entree for the evening, and he's trimming all of the fat from the exterior of the steak. Mm-hmm. And the father speaks out and says, "Hey, I see you're throwing that away. I actually prefer that really over, meat, or can I have that with my meat?" And so the chef was like, "Absolutely, I'm glad you asked because I hate throwing this away." Well, there was a lady at the table that they didn't know, and she said, "Please throw my meat, my fat away. I don't want to give the fat from my steak that I'm going to be eating to this random person at the table." Well, the son that was with him took offense to that and said, what does it matter to you if you're not going to eat it and they're going to throw it away? Why can't he just have it? Well, apparently they exchanged words and
It got heated.
yes, it got heated. And he said, well, you are selfish for just wanting to throw that away when someone else wanted it and you deprived them of that. Well, she was dead set on being right. So the chef obliged and said, okay, I won't give him yours. But basically it caused a huge kerfuffle. And the rest of that dinner was basically ruined because there was so much tension with the 4 of the family members and then the 2 random people that, there was a big strife at the table and it just ruined the evening. So is that guy the a-hole for making a scene to this random lady for not letting her fat be fed to his dad?
The poster here is the son.
Yes.
Okay.
Because he ruined the evening by calling this lady out saying, why are you being so selfish to not let my dad have the food that you're not going to eat?
I'm concerned because I've only been to one hibachi in experience. Is that the right phrase? And it was a great time. Everyone at the table loved being there. It wasn't about fat on the steak or anything like that. So I can't imagine a scenario where this lady would have got so grossed out by the fat comment anyway, that where she caused the scene. But I tell you right away, especially if she come out swinging soon into this experience, like I'm going to swing back.
Oh, for sure. But also like from the standpoint of like, you're not going to eat it anyway. So you would rather see that food, not even from my dad's point of view, but from the restaurant's point, you would rather have the restaurant throw that meat away or that fat away when somebody at your table is like, I'll eat it.
Well, it's a fairly communal experience as it is, right? So
Absolutely.
I'd like to say, how's that your fat to say that you don't want somebody to eat it? I mean, isn't it really, it's really for everybody, isn't it, right?
You would think, yeah, because he's just kind of.
But, just to briefly defend this lady, we've done a lot of shows where we're sampling steaks and we get one bite to nail it for somebody. And we do trim off some excess fat so people aren't not on fat. And hundreds of people always say, what are you doing with that fat? Like,
one of those instances will forever stay in my mind at a trade show. It was a keto conference. All these meat eaters, and we were trimming the back strap off of the New York strip, which is gristly silver skin anyway. And this guy would not leave us alone.
I hated that guy.
Oh my gosh. He came over. He's like, what are you doing with all that? Why are you throwing it away? I want to eat that. I want to eat that. It's like, you can't even eat this, buddy. Like that silver skin, you'll be chewing for weeks.
Just get out of here.
Please.
But in this case, I'm assuming this is like ribeye fat. Something where the dad just, loves the taste of griddled fat. Fits right along with our kind of boomer demographic that's what they grew up loving to eat. So I don't know. This guy can eat what he wants. He's, unfortunately sounds like he might be on his way out with the stage 4. But like this lady to jump in, guns a-blazing, shame on her.
Especially knowing the circumstance of his dad's condition. It's his 60th.
Well, she doesn't know that.
No, but like I would, if I was in his shoes, I would probably do the same thing. Because I'd be like, listen, lady, my dad's got his 60th birthday's today. We're having dinner, celebrating it. Oh, by the way, he's got stage 4 colorectal cancer. So like, let him live a little bit.
Yeah. I think, not to use that as part of a fight, but I get why you would in that circumstance, because I would have to think that this lady right away would be like, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
Have the fat.
Yeah. And in that case too, you almost make her feel bad.
The poor hibachi guy is probably just sitting back there like, holy crap, what the heck do I do here? I mean, did it impact the rest of his show?
I think he probably just was banging his spatulas on the hibachi as he was.
Sometimes they do fairly
this.
dangerous things, right? Tossing knives,
doing
some flame throwing things,
spinning them up, and then the flaming onion tower, or the flinged shrimp.
Yeah, well, that's what this guy needs to pare back and fling a shrimp back.
I think what he did was he used his spatula as like a what do you call those when you fling a rock?
A slingshot.
Yeah, there we go. I think he slingshotted the shrimp at that lady.
I feel bad that, again, this had to happen to this guy. Because, again, he's just trying to have a good time. The son's there to have a good time. And this lady over here largely probably just gets upset over a lot of things.
Could be a lasting memory.
Yeah, for him. That's unfortunate. That's why that lady needs to know that what she's doing to ruin this night is a travesty.
And I don't think he's an a-hole for doing that.
No, of course not.
He's standing up for Pops. Yeah,
I do that in a heartbeat as well. So if my grandpa at this hibachi thing asks someone to do a bump and some lady gets, you can't do that here. I'd be like, he sure can. Guy can do what he wants. Loves bumps.
Loves bumps, but has he asked you about a Kit Kat yet?
Well, I mean, that was a B-rated story. I kind of wish there was something a little more juicy that happened. There's one thing to have words at the table, but another thing to like literally get in a fight.
Could you imagine fisticuffs at the hibachi?
Yep. Two elderly people just getting after it over a strip of fat.
That's usually Golden Corral, though, not hibachi.
So we can confidently say this would not happen with Piedmontese beef because of the lack of intermuscular fat and marbling. So there you're just focused on eating good beef.
There you go.
So in this case, Piedmontese would have likely saved the day. Saved a life?
But, yeah, well, maybe.
Well, I got two stories for you today, Joe.
Okay.
One of them is a strange one. It's kind of hard to believe, but like I said, I'm curious to see your take on it. Okay. And so this one here, it's another am I the a-hole? Okay. Am I the a-hole for yelling at my fiance for storing raw beef in a smoothie container? Seems harmless enough, right? I don't think this guy named this thread very well, but we'll get into that. Okay. I, 27 male, live with my fiance, Lil. We cook a lot at home, and sometimes when we run out of storage containers, we have to get creative with food storage, and we'll use containers throughout the house. So our fridge usually has a few containers with unexpected contents. Exciting stuff. Lil and I work from home, but sometimes Lil has to go on site for work. Today, she had a half-day morning on site. Usually we have a smoothie for breakfast, but since she had to leave, she said last night she would make a smoothie, take some to go, and then leave me some. Most mornings, we just make the smoothie, eat it like a smoothie bowl, and some toppings like PB and nuts. This morning, I woke up when Lil had already left. I had a text from her saying that she had left me some smoothie and asked if I could take the ground beef out of the fridge to defrost for dinner. When I got downstairs, I didn't see any ground beef in the fridge, so I texted her to ask where it was. There was a smoothie thermos container in the fridge with some pink goo in it, so I assumed it must be the smoothie, even though we usually serve those in a bowl and chill them in the freezer beforehand. I tried the smoothie, and it didn't taste very good. You have an idea where this is going? But I knew Lil was in a hurry that morning, so I blended it again and added some peanut butter and protein powder. It still didn't taste great, but it wasn't awful, and it wasn't a huge deal. A few minutes later, though, I started feeling sick. While I was puking my guts out, I saw Lil texted back saying that the ground beef was in a thermos. Oh boy, here we go. When she got home, I was feeling terrible and had just been spewing from both ends all day. I got upset with Lil and said that she shouldn't be storing meat in a smoothie container. I yelled at her and said it was unsafe and confusing. She was hurt and said that the smoothie in the bowl was in the freezer like always, and that I should have recognized it as ground beef, or at least checked before eating it, and that it wasn't her fault that I got sick. Am I the a-hole for getting upset about this? I can't believe that she would store meat in a thermos. And of course I was confused. I yelled at her that it was unsafe, and then went to take a nap, and we haven't spoke since.
Ew. Like,
Okay, before you jump the gun here, have you ever had a ground beef smoothie with peanut butter and protein powder?
We've talked about it how many times, but like, grinding a steak or like smoothieing a steak but ground beef.
The guy said he got sick within a few minutes. So I really don't believe this is we talked about, E. coli and ground beef. I don't think it's necessary that he, there was an E. coli or pathogen in this.
It was mental. Like, it was like, oh boy, I just drank ground
raw meat,
blitzed up ground beef. Like, a lot of protein. I mean, then he supplemented it with protein powder. I mean,
that's a lot going in. So
that's like the Jim Carrey juicer thing where he's like putting like phones in it and stuff. Just the juicer.
So I get why he's upset. I'd be upset. Okay. I'd be upset at myself that I ate something so putrid. Now I'm paying the ultimate price for it. Okay. What I don't get in this case here is, which I will support the lady here, he should not be attacking his fiance here, Lil. Lil wasn't doing anything mean.
She was dinner prepping.
She made a poor choice in container, I'll give you that. When you're looking at throughout the house, you could be rummaging through bowls, plates, other Tupperware containers. Never once would I think a thermos would be a place for
ground beef. Yeah, no, exactly. And that's where I was actually going to go back and say, Tupperware containers are not expensive.
Okay.
And if you need some more, get some more. Don't be putting like, what's next? Oh, the thermos was full, so I used your left shoe to thaw out our steaks for dinner tonight. It's in the fridge.
I was a little confused by it, but yeah, okay, whatever. So yes, but still, I'm still thinking as this guy looked at it, when you see ground beef, you know it's ground beef. So to misconceive this as a smoothie was concerning in the first place.
But also pink goo.
Yes. So there's an edit that explains that. So thank you for bringing that back up.
It was LFTB ground beef.
No.
Oh.
Edit. For everyone asking how I could have mistaken it for a smoothie, this was ground beef that had been pureed in a blender and seasoned. Lil made it this way for a specific recipe. Then we had some leftover, so she froze it. What recipe is anyone cooking where they're pureeing ground beef? Raw ground beef?
Is it dog food?
I'm mortified. This does not specify it, okay? But I'm a little concerned about this in general. So there's a last little bit to the edit. So this did not look like normal ground beef. And because of the seasonings that were added, it had little chunks of red in it. And that it looked like strawberry chunks in our usual smoothies. I'm very groggy in the morning, so I didn't look too closely.
I can't do it. I mean, I'm getting irpy just envisioning this whole scenario. But like, again.
So now I'm just, again, questioning this couple's choice in everything that they're doing.
Yes.
So I get if you're trying to stretch $1 with ground beef, there's a lot of great ground beef recipes out there that don't call for blitzing it and
pureeing it with other spices and seasonings.
Yeah, and like again, it's already ground. It doesn't need to be further processed. So again, I don't believe the Lil here is an a-hole for making it, because it sounds like they just kept it in the thing that she blended it in. He's being a little bit angry because he made a poor choice, but being groggy in the morning does not excuse chugging raw ground beef or at all mixing it with other ingredients.
He has a right to be upset, for sure. I mean, you got to let it go at some point. But, now honestly, my wheels are actually turning to see if I can't try to make like a ground beef pate of sorts.
Perhaps, but again, that's not a food safe thing to do. There's better cuts of meat to use than old ground beef. And if they're using like a thermos for a container, I'm just guessing the financials of this couple aren't, because if they were really well off, they'd probably have a lot of different containers to store this stuff in.
Maybe they don't have space to store it.
That's true too. But any question too, maybe let's just find better quit any scenario where you have to puree ground beef. Let's just not have that as a recipe anymore.
Or don't do that and then freeze it for later use.
If you're curious though, this guy was voted the a-hole.
Whoa.
For getting upset. So, and this isn't part of the question, but let's fast forward now. Is this couple still together? I don't know the answer to this, but I'm just wanting your opinion.
I bet they are, but I bet his last edit is like in all caps where he's like, screw you guys. Have you ever had ground beef in a smoothie? Like,
well, in his response, his comments were justifying that he's groggy. He's up late. He's doing stuff. God knows what, but he was not fully at it in the morning to understand that what he was looking at and further blending with protein powders and peanut butter was meat.
That hurts his side of the story because everybody's tired. Mm-hmm. You can't use that as an excuse.
Yeah. Well, shame on him. I tend to agree. He shouldn't have yelled. He's just mad at himself and he's taken out on someone else. It's a sign for a potentially unhealthy relationship. So they should be on lookout.
It does sound very similar to how most liquid diets go, though. His results. So.
Well, okay, let's move on from that one. That was a little kind of a gross one, usually off from our normal topics here, but should we bring back a relationship situation here?
I love these.
Yeah. This one I think is a pretty good one. I would be very interested if this happened to me in my life, so let's go into this one here. This one's posted 7 months ago, fairly well engaged, so this is not a loser story by any means. Am I the a-hole for making my brother's vegan girlfriend feel alienated at my engagement dinner? Okay. I, 24 female, recently got engaged and had an engagement party dinner this past weekend. I am currently still receiving backlash from this, and I want to get some outside opinions if I was in the wrong. My fiance and I both invited both of our immediate family and close friends to a dinner, roughly 30 people. The dinner was held at a nice Italian restaurant in my city. Our invites gave our guests the option to choose between a meat option and a fish option for their mains. Disgusting. Fish has no point in any sort of romantic dinner here. That can be debatable, because I'm just not a fish guy, but I wanted to get my point out there. It's important to note that only people in both mine and my fiance's families that I gave food restrictions are my dad and my stepmom, as they are pescatarian. But a lot of people in our family love seafood, so the fish option was chosen more than the meat option.
That's weird.
The younger brother, 20 male, contacted me a week before dinner to RSVP and ask if he can bring a +1, his new girlfriend. He chose the meat option. Now, my brother dates around a lot and is always bringing new girls around, so I wasn't aware that he was even in a relationship. I told him sure, and that I'd have an extra seat for her. Night of the dinner comes. Everyone's having a good time. I meet my brother's new girlfriend. She seems very sweet. When it came time to eat, she pulled one of the waiters aside and loudly asked him, "Is there any vegan options?" Now, to specify, I do want to address this quick. Vegetarians just don't eat meat. Vegans go a step further and do not consume any byproducts that are produced from meat.
Eggs, milk, cheese, anything. Yep.
The nth degree, even more awful. So she asked if there's any vegan options. The waiter looked confused and said, "Well, we have a fish and a meat option for the mains. I can offer you, however, a salad and some roasted potatoes and other veggies as a substitute if you wish." My brother's girlfriend started getting mouthy with him and said, "Well, what if I don't want a salad, huh? You just assumed that I'm a vegan. I only want to eat salads. What if I want some pasta? What kind of restaurant is this? This is discrimination." Classic vegan. My brother started trying to calm her down, and she started going off on me, saying, "Why would you pick a restaurant that doesn't have vegan options? Many people are vegan nowadays, and it makes me feel alienated that you didn't even think to accommodate me." I explained to her that the only people that have food restriction here are pescatarians, so that's what I considered when I chose the restaurant. I didn't even know she was coming until a week ago. The reservation had been booked over a month ago.
Yeah, wouldn't that be weird to be like, nobody even knows who you are?
Well, I think that's what's going on here, right? She started saying it's embarrassing on my part that I can't accommodate all my guests, and called me small-minded. And I told her, "Excuse me, I don't think to accommodate you, I didn't think to accommodate you, so I'll consider you in the future, I guess. Hopefully you'll be around long enough for me to be able to do so." She ended up leaving. My brother walked out with her and has been messaging me that I should apologize to her because I embarrassed her in front of everyone. I told him that she embarrassed herself. My mom's also been on the case to apologize to be the bigger person and keep the peace. Am I the a-hole for making her feel alienated?
No.
Not even.
I mean, no.
I answered this after the first.
Yeah, I mean,
sentence, but-
also, like, what a tremendous, I'm assuming probably first impression.
For the new girlfriend.
Yeah. So, like, I bet all of these people, the family members on both sides are probably like, whoa.
Yeah. I mean, again, to make a scene. Now, I'm not trying to categorize all vegans here, but this sounds like a very vegan response.
Oh, yeah. Like, and very, very par for the course.
You would think that she would go in there, would probably even ask Noah ahead of time that she's going to an Italian restaurant. How many Italian restaurants, what do you think? When you think Italian restaurants, you're thinking a boatload of cheese, right?
I'll take your vegan Parmesan, please.
Yeah, it doesn't happen. A classic Italian restaurant on a nice dinner party like this is not a vegan restaurant. Everything they use is going to be copious amounts of butter,
Cheese.
of Parmesan, of cheese. Like, I'm sorry. Like,
Chicken. I mean, eggplant is probably the only thing, but like, with what?
yeah, they're going to bread that in eggs. They're going to fry it in all these oils. They're going to bake it in ovens that have meat in it.
Or they're going to be frying it in a fryer that's also fried chicken or beef or whatever else.
This is a young lady here, well on her way to a bright future, I'm assuming. She should have known going into this that there likely isn't going to be a vegan option. And why on earth would she expect her not even sister-in-law to accommodate that?
Take the vegan element aside. Look at, it's a first impression.
Mm-hmm.
And so vegan or not, wouldn't you just kind of, I mean, we talked about this, I think, on the first Am I the A-hole on Reddit, where it's like, yes, you forced your boyfriend that's vegan to eat the meat, but like here it's like she should just say like, hey, I'll just eat around what I can eat around and have a pleasant time. Because now she made an engagement dinner not about her, all about her.
Yeah. Shame on her.
Ugh.
And especially for the fiance getting married, the couple getting married. What a way to ruin a really nice evening.
Yeah.
So to me, right away, I'm not so mad at this girl as I am mad at my brother who invited this girl.
Yes.
So he's dead. Dead to me. But yeah, I would have allowed it at the table, just right with her. Would apologize, like I did not consider any vegan options because I didn't know anyone here was vegan.
Do you think he went from being a groomsman out of just, tradition to an usher?
I wonder if there's any edits on this. I don't see anything that mentions anything from the original poster that there was any.
That's just too bad, though. Again, because a stranger derailed a very joyous celebration.
Yep, and actually, from the comments here, the brother is actually the one that is considered the a-hole, because it was the brother's responsibility to make sure that the poster here knew that his girlfriend was vegan, disclosed in some sort of fashion. She's already made some accommodation to accommodate the pescatarian in-laws, so she could have added one more option. But again, to assume that this Italian restaurant could whip up a vegan dish for one person at a group of 30 ain't happening.
Yeah, especially just the nature of the cuisine, but also to plan around your celebration around one person that no one's ever met. Mm-hmm. That sounds like a recipe for disaster anyway.
Yeah. Well, and like most vegans, she probably should have just eaten something beforehand. So she only really has to snack. Pick out a few options. Get lowered at dinner. Just get blasted.
But also, I'd like to ask the question of what does she eat if the waiter assumed or waitress assumed that, oh, you could just have a salad. Like, I don't want to just eat salad. Like, what
else? What's next?
Or also, like, what's the harm in the restaurant just slopping together some hot and naked noodles and just slopping them on a plate and putting them in front of her?
Are the noodles made from eggs?
Probably. Or
I'm saying, like, this Italian restaurant isn't set up to accommodate. They're Caesar. They probably have Caesar salads. Again, got meat in there. Like, this lady, if this brother knew that her new girlfriend was vegan, she shouldn't have been invited. And obviously, this guy shouldn't be dating her in the first place at all. I mean, I'm sorry. Like,
I doubt he still is, honestly. Oh, no. If he's cycling through girlfriends,
he needs just to turn the dial. Move on to the next.
Next.
Well, those are pretty easy ones today, Joe. I wanted to make sure that we're not always talking and commenting on people's relationships. But in this case, I don't see where meat saved the day at all. So I think next week we probably need to find more uplifting beef stories.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So we can do that for next time. But we do want to let all our listeners know, hop on to cpbeef.com, and all of your order, on your beef order, is 26% off with the code PBP26. You want to give them some free stuff too?
I think so, yeah. If you actually use the code in response, one word, we're going to give away 2 free steaks. Which one should we hit them with, Ben?
How about some Manhattan New York strips?
Ooh.
So these are king cut, basically look like filet mignons, but all the beefy flavor of the New York strip.
In an 8-ounce portion, it is beautiful.
Let's do those.
All right. So use the code in response at checkout, and you'll get 2 complimentary Manhattan New York strip steaks.
We'll see you next week.